Sur Africa 24, ce programme vous est présenté par le secrétariat de l'ASLECAF.
Thank you for joining us on Africa 24 English for this new edition of the interview. Today, to discuss the public and private sector's challenges and opportunities in the building of regional and continental value chains, we welcome Susan Auma Mang'eni, Principal Secretary, State Department of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development in Kenya. Mrs. Auma, welcome to Africa 24 English.
Thank you.
Ma'am, the second edition of the Biashara Africa offers an engaging platform for ongoing dialogue between African public and private sectors on the challenges and opportunities of the process of building regional and continental value chains. How can this event help to create investment opportunities on a continental scale?
Thank you so much. I must say this is the first time I'm attending because this is the second edition. So I also it's my first time to attend it, and I find it to be a very good forum because now we are discussing the consolidation of the African market, which is anchored around the 1.3 billion population that we have in the continent, and also knowing that our continent is fairly very young, extremely young, and we are faced with a youth bulge. So what we need to do is to see how can we promote intra-trade in a manner that it creates opportunities for our young people, or rather our young population. We can only do that if we build a guaranteed market. So coming here in Kigali to discuss, looking at what opportunities are there, the regional value chain, but even beyond that, looking at each countries and see what value chain do they have, what value do they have. Because for me, I look at the free trade area in our continent will be built on a complementary principle, because, okay, fine, we are good in this, but my brother in the neighborhood, my neighboring brother does not have this. So then how do we exchange the value to the brother? And how does that brother also bring value which are surpluses to us? So I think this is an opportunity for us to grow the market, the continental market, and also see to it that our production, of various production in terms of the value chain finds then a market space.
Well, data from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development show that intra-African trade currently accounts for just 18% of the continent's total trade, compared with almost 58% in Europe or even 59% in Asia. Tariff and non-tariff barriers are to be blamed even in the aviation sector. In your opinion, how can we solve this situation?
I think first of all to appreciate the milestone we have achieved so far. 18% is something, because we started not so long ago on creating these opportunities for the African countries. If you look at other regions, I mean, they've been there, they've existed for long. So if you're doing 18%, it shows there is much opportunity going into the future. But again, also we have to look at what are the barriers. Look at what are some of those barriers. For example, the greatest barrier has been the infrastructure development, because if you were to if let's say we are trading between Kenya and Ghana, it will take us a minimum of 80 days. Those are almost 3 months to move our goods from Kenya to Ghana. But if you are to look at moving our goods from Kenya to US or Kenya to European country, it will be much easier. So I think some of those are infrastructural barriers that make the trade not to be so much, to move as fast as we would have wished. The other aspect is the aspect of currency. We currently do not have a common currency. You look at Europe, they have one currency, a euro. So it becomes so easy sometimes to trade where there is also a mode of payment that is accepted by all parties. So those are some of the areas, some of the issues that we're looking at to see how we can unlock. And then of course there has been also an issue of a language barrier, which we are trying as much as possible to see, because if you can talk and interact, you can actually exchange certain values, you can trade amongst each other. And like I said, this initiative, the AFCTA, is a new initiative that we need to grow. What is done, it has already shown it is high potential in terms of now elevating Africa to the global stage and also helping us now to globalize our regional value chain. And by also, you know, having this platform, what it serves as African country is that it also builds our resilience in being more competitive at the global stage. And because we are fragmented in terms of our production levels and our capacities have been a little bit low, because one thing you can have a market, but another thing, what is the scale? So approaching it from a continental front then makes us also enlarge our scales, which will make also other players in the global stage to respect us and also to start seeing us as very influential partners.
Well, you mentioned the continental scale. Now, let's go back to the national one. In terms of integration, Kenya is known to be one of the best countries in East Africa to trade with its neighboring countries. I would like to know what the country is doing to support its private sector and attract more investment.
Yeah, first and foremost is to work on our infrastructure. And let me just begin by saying the goodwill. It all begins with the political goodwill. Currently, the current administration has demonstrated very high political goodwill to the sector, and that's why I'm here as the Principal Secretary for the State Department of MSME. I'm sure if you've interacted with many African countries, you will unlikely get, you know, a State Department which is like an administrative implementation framework on the MSME sector development. You'll unlikely get in so many countries. You'll find MSMEs being jumbled around probably investment, trade, and it gets lost out there. For us, for our president to have, you know, thought it wise just to have a distinct State Department that focuses on development of MSME, it demonstrates the kind of attention and renewed energy you're putting into that sector. So that recognition itself shows that we are keen as a government to start looking at the various regulatory framework, policy framework, and create a conducive environment for MSME. So that is a tick. Secondly, as you know, Kenya has been you know, at the forefront in terms of, you know, the technological innovation. I mean, M-Pesa is one of that significant innovation that can also help us, you know, and make other African countries to start trading with each other. Because yes, where there is trade, there should also be payments. And what is the mode of payment that is acceptable? So the M-Pesa innovation, and we want to see how these ones, again, you know, how we can leapfrog some of those technological innovation. Because one thing with African continent, yes, we have challenges in terms of physical infrastructure. It's not true that we can achieve roads, to have better roads in crisscrossing every village. It's not also true that we can have the bank branches all over in every village. But one of the things that the continent has right now that is proud of is the young population. And with a youthful population, there comes with innovation, there comes with the creativity. And now when it comes to this technological innovation, it means that Africa will be ahead of the rest of the world in terms of taking up those opportunities. So we are already bridging that gap that has been there at the global stage. We can do much by leveraging on the digital spread, on the technological spread. And Kenya, our government, for example, right now we are committed in the next 10 years to have established close to 100,000 kilometers of digital superhighways, making sure that technology can be cascaded up to grassroots level in each and every household, so as to give our population an opportunity to trade in the digital space. So we're doing that. But we are also very keen in terms of addressing or rather unlocking access to finance. In fact, I dare say that in Africa, Kenya is becoming a champion for financial inclusivity. So 2 years ago, when our new administration under President William Ruto came in power, we found majority of our population who are in productive age, those are 18 years and above, had been blacklisted. Close to 8 million of Kenyans had been blacklisted because of the experiences they had arising from the pandemic shock, from the geopolitical tensions, pitting Ukraine and Russia, the high inflation that you all experience. And then the worst thing happens in Kenya in the last 3 years, the worst drought that Kenya had ever seen in the last 30 years, that now made us to start, becoming more of a dependent on other countries in terms of import of foods, basic foods. So we say, look, we cannot continue like that. So the government had to come in and intervene. So what was our first step of intervention? First is to recognize all the players. And in this case, there is no economy which can grow without the private sector. So we are intervening in terms of preparing our population to become lending and investment ready, so that then they can be supported by the private sector. So we sat down and say that majority of our population, almost 80%, cannot access credit because they don't own means of production. They don't have access to the present day conventional collaterals. There are young people, there are women who do not own any property. So how can we unlock? How do we make sure that no one is left behind? That everybody can have an opportunity to participate in the economy. So then we also get to ease the burden of the few who right now are shouldering in terms of taxation and everything. And we say we have to discuss this collateral. And then they suggested, look, we have many Kenyans who are blacklisted. We can't touch them. So you as a government, why can't you de-risk them? By taking that risk, we say, fine, we have to cost share. So what we'll do, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to form a telco company. We don't want to start our own bank. We are going to partner in this journey. So we'll put in money, like the seed capital, but we'll leverage right on the technology. We are going to make use of your expertise and your lending experience. So then we start in calculating into our society a catch of creditworthiness. And so far, 2 years down the line, I'm very proud to say we've reached out and using technology, mobile money technology. I mean, whether it's a feature phone, whether it's a smartphone, and majority of people that we have supported are also using the feature phone, which are not smart, meaning that through this initiative, being able to reach out to that person at the grassroots. But you know why were we doing that? Also to create visibility of those people. Start having data, having information which can be shareable with the private sector, and then we start now coming up with specific solutions, financial solutions and product that tends to their immediate needs. So we are in that space, and what we want now with 2 years experience, we want now to start graduating those ones that have demonstrated good credit behavior, to start accessing loans that can enable them also do business. And we also want them to target certain sectors, especially around the regional value chain which you are promoting, so then that they can also exploit the opportunity we have in the continental free trade area.
Now I would like to know, on the continental scale, what are Kenya's comparative advantages in attracting investors in the local production of goods and services?
Oh, first and foremost, technology. I mean, mobile technology, we are super. I don't think even there is any country that can beat us in that regard. And of course, what other countries may want to learn from us is the payment system. Mobile payment system, a payment system that is easily accessible, that can penetrate each and every village on the continent. Kenya, we are there in that space. Secondly, when it comes to agricultural innovation, the value addition space, I think we're also there. And then of course, we are not like other African countries who have huge minerals, many, mineral fields and stuff. But I think in terms of human capital development, we're also up there. And as we discuss the movement of goods, we also want to be in that space where we're discussing the movement of services. What skills do we have that we can be able also to export to our neighbors? And like I said in the beginning, you want to look at this relationship, trade relationship, just away from exchange of goods and probably services, to some sort of complementing each other in brotherhood, in sisterhood, saying if I have more or if I have better, my brother can have. And also appreciating that there is no corner of this continent that has no economic value, and there is no citizen of Africa who does not have value. So once we start appreciating that, we start looking at each other from an opportunity perspective and as equal partner. And I think human capital, we're there, and again, we have also a population that is always ready to take on something, and that's why we were able to realize the milestone we have realized so far in terms of mobile technology and money innovations like M-Pesa.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Auma. It was a pleasure to have you on Africa 24 English.
Thank you.
Ladies and gents, here comes the end of this program, but please stay tuned to Africa24tv.com and on the app My Africa 24.
Ce programme vous a été présenté par le secrétariat de la ZLECAf sur Africa 24.